Good morning and welcome to Cheche, the show where opinion counts, live on Citizen TV. I'm your host, Udwaka Mimo. The Judicial Service Commission, the JSC, has quite a challenge on its hands. It has to find 3 suitable people to fill the vacant positions on the Supreme Court: a Chief Justice, a Deputy Chief Justice, and a Supreme Court Judge. The court lacks quorum following the early retirement of Willie Mutunga as Chief Justice, and the court ordered retirement of his deputy, Kalpana Rawal and Philip Tanoi, over their age. So what combination of personality, experience and talents should the JSC consider as it reconstitutes the Supreme Court? Our guests are the Vice Chairperson of the JSC, Professor Margaret Kobia, and Anna Madi, the Chief Registrar of the Judiciary and the Secretary to the JSC. Good morning and welcome to the show. We also have with us our regular panelists, Motegi Njau and David Makali. Professor Kobia, I'll start with you, given that you're acting as the chairperson of the JSC at this point. Would you agree that this is a difficult task, or do you think I'm overstating the situation?
I would really say that an opportunity has come for JSC to recruit a new Chief Justice for this country. I wouldn't say it's really a challenging assignment, because for us, much as we understand the weight of identifying this individual, we also think it's also an opportunity for somebody to come and take over from where Willie Mutunga left. Therefore, Judicial Service Commission, which is given the responsibility of promoting independence and accountability in judicially, is seeing this opportunity, and we are up to task, and we will surely get the kind of a person Kenyans have in their mind who can really champion and lead the judiciary.
Mrs. Amadi, I come to you now because you're the Secretary of the JSC, so you function as the CEO. You've advertised these positions. They close next week. What sort of responses have you been receiving?
The tendency in JSC so far, from what I've seen, is that we tend to get the bulk of the applications from 3 days before the close.
At the last minute?
Yes. So initially they'll be trickling in one by one, but by 5th, 6th we expect a huge influx. That has been the trend, and I think that's what is going to happen, because as at yesterday we didn't have any applications yet. No applications at all. Kenyans are not interested in these jobs. And that is strange, because even when we advertised for the judges who are being recruited right now, 4 days before closure we had like 3 applications, and on the last day we had 83. So we expect the same trend. Okay, so what happens between the JSC and you as the CEO of the JSC? What's your mandate in the selection process? Our mandate, first of all, is to begin with crafting of the advert, just based on the constitutional provisions and timelines. And of course, we made sure that as soon as the seat fell vacant, the Gazette notice was out and the advert was ready, because we wanted to. Even though you had some trouble with the Gazette notice, didn't you? Not for the Chief Justice. We had for other positions, but not for the Chief Justice, because it wasn't disputed.
Maybe you can tell us about that dispute, because it would be very funny that you are going to sue the government printer because of failing to publish a Gazette notice. It will be funny.
No, there was no suit, but there was a demand that the right thing be done. Because which is what? What happens is that when we submit a Gazette notice for publication, we don't require to do anything else apart from submit it. So for this particular one, we submitted, and it wasn't being printed. So a demand had to be made because of the urgency of the matter, the anxiety it was causing. We needed to keep the timelines, and therefore we needed to make the demand that it be done.
Was it true that initially there was a missing signature on that Gazette notice, which the printer required that it appears on that notice?
That is not possible. It's not possible.
Did the Attorney General, the State Law Office, not remind you of a signature that was missing?
No.
But it was supposed to be signed by the appropriate authority.
It was signed by the Honorable the Chief Justice.
But the first one hadn't been signed, or was that the case? Maybe confusion in the media.
It was signed.
Perhaps that was a confusion within the media, because all we needed is to get it done by the time all the cases were determined.
Yes.
Therefore, if the media felt that there was no signature there, Chief Justice and signed that Gazette notice.
Let's get it a bit, some dose of clarity there. The information that we got was that a notice had been sent to the government printer. That did not, he didn't print it. And then there was correspondence to the Attorney General indicating that there was something missing in that notification. The Attorney General, did the Attorney General actually write to say, let it be signed appropriately, and was there such an appropriate signature that caused it to be printed, or this was all a makeup in the press?
The same notice that we presented is the one that was printed.
Okay.
And in any case, usually gazette notices from the judiciary don't need to pass through any other agency.
Because if that happened, JSC is supposed to promote independence of judiciary. Therefore, a gazette notice that is supposed to be given by CJ cannot be expected to go through the Attorney General for approval. However, for the executive, that happens. But for this arm of government judicially, Chief Justice enough is to gazette whatever required.
So the gazette, the notice or circular issued by the Attorney General regarding all gazette notices does not take care of Parliament and the judiciary. These are the two arms of government. But the executive is a requirement that if you are going to publish anything gazette notice, you get the approval of Attorney General.
So in understanding, what was the cause of the delay? Why were they reluctant to publish it?
Actually, we haven't received any communication at all.
On why they delayed?
But we are happy that it was finally done.
Okay, fine. So the judiciary, there's been a lot of intrigue, and this just sounds like one of them. And so going forward, are you recruiting differently? Is there anything that you're taking into consideration, given the circumstances, shall we say, that the Supreme Court finds itself in various legal challenges? Some would say even that the erosion of stature and dignity of the bench.
First, let me say that Kenyans should not be surprised that we have not received application by now. This position is a very senior position. The Chief Justice hands one arm of government. Therefore, the people we are looking for are not very many. Therefore, and also there is a requirement for them to do due diligence, bring relevant papers from 4 different government agencies. Therefore, it's likely to take a little bit longer. And I also think people reflect, can I really meet the bill? Can I really meet the criteria as spelled out in the advert? Therefore, actually we expect most of them to come the last day. Therefore, and what we have done now in this recruitment, we did not need really to struggle because it's very well spelled out in our JSC Act and also in the Constitution. Therefore, we have taken out the advertisement that requires 21 days wait. Once they are in on 6th, then we will sit and do the shortlisting. The question that JSC as judiciary has struggled with is several issues. This is not totally unexpected because we are in transition. And during transition times, things are quite difficult, and we learn as we go. Therefore, we are going to follow the procedure, because it's not the first time in the Constitution, in the Act, we have hired a Chief Justice before, Deputy Chief Justice. Therefore, our lessons are inbuilt in this particular process, so that we do it as per the letter and the spirit of the Constitution.
What lessons have you learned, and are you going to do anything differently this time around, given the fact that the people you recruited previously, some Kenyans feel, have eroded the dignity of the Supreme Court?
Maybe that is a very harsh judgment, because when you look at the transformation that has taken place in the judiciary, there has been some effort during this transition
but we are bring ourselves to the Supreme Court.
Yeah, the Supreme Court has had some difficulties in terms of maybe gelling together and maybe working together, and perhaps that could be explained by one thing is the apex court. 2, it is composed of maybe 7 people who did not kind of get it to become a team. And perhaps that is not very strange. Therefore, we are looking, moving forward, somebody who can be able to bring the people together in Supreme Court, make a team and support each other. And at the same time, we cannot be really averse to diverse opinion, but we should be able to find when they have difficulties, how do they get together. So we are looking for that person who will bridge that gap where we are struggling with very strong team, being the court that every other judges look up to. David, you'd like to comment?
Yeah, it has been argued that the reason why the Supreme Court did not gel very well is because it was composed principally in the majority of non-previous judiciary judges who are not on the bench, who are not serving. They were all external members. And so the whole decorum of working together, this brotherhood, sisterhood in the judiciary that you know, is a character and culture, was missing there. And so there is an inclination to think that the next Chief Justice, and in fact the replacements, ought to be people who have served in the judiciary for some time. Is this thinking current within this recruitment environment?
I think in public service we have also come to appreciate that some experience working with the public service does help, but it cannot be the only one. So in our consideration for who should be the next Chief Justice, one of that is something to consider. We have opened to people who are academicians are also coming from public service, people who are distinguished lawyers of this country, and also people who are from within, all the judges who have grown through judicially. Therefore, it's a lesson. But we cannot say 100% this team did not gel because maybe majority did it. That is one of the facts. And I think we have 2. Tonui came from within, Ibrahim came from within, and I think and Ojuang came from within. So 3 out of the 7 came from within. Perhaps that maybe 3 out of 7, maybe in the future we should think maybe the composition should be a little bit higher. We have realized actually, even if you want to bring people from outside, that 3/4 will be from within. A quarter should be the one we should be injecting to bring that kind of capability that we are looking for.
If you say then that working from within does not necessarily add to, you know, team building.
It can't be the only.
Yeah. Would you say therefore that the problems, the recent intrigues we've seen within the Supreme Court have to do with personal, political, or even professional differences? What happened? You're their employer, so you must have a window into, you know, how things started falling apart there.
I think in our view, we think it's more of personal temperament rather than really political. I do not see it really playing a big role, but we can see situations where maybe as the former Chief Justice tried very much to lead the team, the lawyers are also quite complicated, and it's a team to lead. I think let's be realistic. Everybody holds their opinion, and if one does not have a capability on building that strong followership, it becomes quite a challenge.
So we've heard you say you're looking for a strong leader who can forge a team.
Yes.
So in terms of personality then, what are you looking for?
In terms of personality, we are looking for a person who has had a very track record of performance. We are also looking for a person who has been able to lead some teams or to lead some department. We are also looking at the person who can pass the bill of Chapter 6. That is above board in terms of integrity. We are also looking at a person who will easily be accepted among peers. This is a very senior position, and once JSC gets somebody who the rest of the peers does not think has credibility, we start with a problem. Therefore, that's why we are taking this long time to include even public participation, where whoever applies for this position, we are going to say this is a list of people who applied, These are the ones we have shortlisted. Kenyans, what do you have to say about them?
Yeah. With respect, though, to the Chief Justice position, the former Chief Justice, William Mutunga, famously said that the judiciary was corrupt and that there were cartels existing there, which, you know, is how you got this new position that you hold as Chief Registrar. How are you going to manage that, given that this position, to some Kenyans, would seem to be a poison chalice?
As far as corruption is concerned, I know that the judiciary has, we've had cases, big cases out there. And for me, it's appointed to the fact that the judiciary has put in place structures to help in terms of identifying it, detecting it, and doing something about it. Because if those were absent, then I don't think we would have a single case out there being taken through some process in terms of investigation and finding out what really happened. So indeed there are problems in the judiciary, we acknowledge that, and that is why we have the Office of the Ombudsperson and the Office of the Chief Justice, whose role is really to take complaints and to investigate. A few cases are out there, you know about them, but there are many more that don't come out, maybe because the person involved is not as big. Therefore, the structures are in place, and indeed, whenever there are complaints, we check, we collaborate with the other competent agencies, and the determination to deal with it really remains. So I don't think that, okay, the Chief Justice was very focused on the issue of corruption, and I expect it to continue. So that even as we recruit a new Chief Justice and we open it up to public participation, the role of the public will be very critical, and we'll be urging the public to let us know if there is anything that we need to know about the candidates that are going to express interest.
But there has been no casualty in that war on corruption. I mean, we've had a lot of talk about corruption in the judiciary, but that becomes a song, because then who is going to fix it? And we are talking about cases which have been there, but which cases, and has there been any you know, punishment, or especially of the High Court, from the High Court going up?
Let me say this, that the judiciary does its part. The judiciary cannot prosecute. We hear the case and make the determination. So once we do our part and we're satisfied that there could have been corruption, then it gets to the next level. There is CID, there is NIS, there is EACC, and once it gets to them, then we don't have control until they come back now to the particular magistrate or judge. Okay, we have the what is it called, the anti-corruption court. So then it depends on the support that we would get from the agencies that have the mandate to prosecute, because we cannot appear before ourselves to prosecute any case. But in terms of administrative action, I can tell you for a fact that we've lost quite a number of staff. We've lost magistrates, we've lost accountants, clerical officers as a result. So we're able to take the administrative action, let them go. But in terms of prosecution, then we become limited, because we can only take it to a certain level. We have also been sued by the people that have been fired for engaging in corrupt practices. Of course, when it comes to a judge, then you can't just fire them. The judge has to go through the tribunal process, which is now a process under a different arm of government. We don't participate in choosing who sits in the tribunal, and therefore, again, we get limited to that extent.
There is a proposal in Parliament that they amend the Judicial Service Commission Act to bring another group of people, a tribunal, to hear complaints against judges. It is in today's press.
Yes, I've heard about it.
Yes.
That would mean then that they would have to also change the, because that is the mandate of the JEC.
Right. Currently now, anybody who complains about any judge regarding corruption matters, that is written to JEC, and the JEC gives the hearing to the person who has been alleged, and we establish. And let me say also, the most corrupt part of judicial is in the registries. I think that's what that one, and that has come in the attention of JSC, and we have tried anybody who has been implicated, things like printing new receipts and issuing them out. Those officers have been sent away, and of course the next process following. Therefore, I think there have been effort, And this corruption is not just in the judiciary, but the entire public service. We are struggling with dealing with corruption because also corruption cases are difficult to deal with and fast track. Yeah.
So you don't see it.
So we are looking for a Chief Justice also who can champion fighting corruption.
Corruption buster.
Yeah.
How difficult then is it to balance competencies, leadership, team building, corruption busting with political, gender, and ethnic considerations? Because, you know, the Constitution says the face of Kenya.
Yeah.
So do you not have a situation where you have qualified candidates who be disqualified on account of their background?
We expect that a lot. There will be people who are very competent in doing this work, but if they have issues to do with the integrity or politics, I don't see it playing a lot. Although the Chief Justice we are looking for must also be able to play in a political arena, because what is politics is a process of deciding how resources are going to be used. He is just one arm of government. Therefore, he may not be actively involved in politics, but he must understand how the three arms of government work.
Would you disqualify anyone on account of their ethnicity?
We would, because of the Constitution requires that we give the face of Kenya. Therefore, if we are going to recruit for these three positions, I can tell you for sure, we cannot take from, it must be diverse. Even if we first is merit and competencies, which I think maybe there can be 3 or 4, then of course you agree after merit, fairness, and because we are supposed to recruit competitively, then we will bring those other dimensions like the face of Kenya. We cannot run away from that.
But this is a recruitment that also has bearing on the other arms of government.
Yes.
And so you hear those saying that you cannot have all 3 arms of government headed by people from 1 or 2 ethnicities.
In my view, they are right. Because if there are 3 arms of government, you can't have the 3 arms of government. You know, whatever we do must be acceptable to Kenya. And what I'm saying that they are not so few that we can't be able to.
So what you're saying is that if there's anyone here listening to this program from any of these major communities perceived to be heading institutions, they need not bother to apply.
I'm not saying that, but they just need to reflect on and make a decision on their own. Yeah.
Well, they've said in this country also that people succeed, communities are succeeding themselves in positions. Is that a consideration somebody should think?
No, I think on behalf of JSC, really, we will not, coming from where the previous CJ will not be affected at all. It will be competitive, as spells in the hand. And I don't think that somebody should be applying from there.
No, they think are you still on this? Because we have to take a break. I think we should come back to this so that we can. Yes, this is Cheche. We're live on Citizen TV. Tell us what you think about how the JSC should focus its recruitment as it goes about filling and reconstituting the Supreme Court. Tell us using the SMS number 22422 or use the hashtag Cheche.